A strange new roommate. Alex Martinez never expected his first day at Orbital Academy Station to begin with a decontamination shower and end with an alien roommate who apparently hibernated in crystal form. Yet here he was, standing in his new quarters, staring at what looked like a human-sized purple crystal formation jutting from the corner of the room. "And you're absolutely sure this is normal?" Alex asked the housing coordinator, a cheerful AI hologram that called itself PM. "Completely normal," Pam chirped, its translucent form flickering slightly. "Crystalline dormancy is the natural state for Centauri students during their study cycles. Your roommate Quirks will emerge when their next active phase begins. Just don't disturb the crystal formation and everything will be fine." Alex ran a hand through his still damp hair, trying to process this information. When he'd applied for the Academy's xenobiology program, he knew he'd be dealing with alien life forms. He just didn't expect one to be literally living in his room. "Right. And when exactly is this active phase supposed to begin?" "Oh, anywhere between 2 to 6 Earth months," Pam replied cheerfully. "The dormancy cycle is quite variable. Now, here's your orientation package and class schedule. Do you have any other questions?" Alex had about 1,000 questions, but he just shook his head. Pam blinked out of existence, leaving him alone with his crystalline roommate. The quarter-sized room suddenly felt much smaller. He began unpacking his meager belongings, some clothes, his research tablets, and a few precious physical books that had cost a fortune to bring up from Earth. The whole time, he couldn't shake the feeling that the crystal was watching him. "You're being ridiculous," he muttered to himself. "It's just a fancy rock." The crystal seemed to pulse faintly in response, but Alex told himself it was just a trick of the station's artificial lighting. Over the next few weeks, Alex fell into a routine. His classes were challenging but fascinating. Learning about the biological diversity of the known universe was everything he'd dreamed of. He even made a few friends, including a hyperactive Martian named Zhang, who had 3 cybernetic arms and a terrible habit of finishing other people's sentences. He almost got used to having a crystal for a roommate. Almost. The problem was, Quirks' crystal seemed to be changing. Subtle at first, a slight shift in color here, a new facet there. But after a month, the changes became impossible to ignore. The crystal had developed a distinct bluish tinge and appeared to be humming. "I'm telling you, something's not right," Alex insisted to Zhang over lunch in the station's massive cafeteria. "Crystals don't hum." Zhang manipulated 3 different holographic displays with his extra arms while shoveling synthetic noodles into his mouth with his original right hand. Actually, some crystals do exhibit vibrational properties that could be interpreted as humming. There's this fascinating research paper about. "Not helping, Zhang." Alex cut him off. "Should I report it?" "And say what?" "My dormant alien roommate is making noise." "They'll think you're paranoid." Zhang paused his rapid-fire multitasking. "Look, Centauri biology is barely understood. Maybe this is normal." But it wasn't normal, and Alex knew it. He'd started having strange dreams. Visions of swirling cosmic energy and distant stars. Sometimes he'd wake up to find his research tablets displaying complex mathematical equations he didn't remember writing. The breaking point came during his 3rd month at the station. Alex had been pulling an all-nighter, studying for his advanced xenomorphic physiology exam. The room was quiet except for the ever-present hum of the station's life support systems and the now-familiar resonance from Quirks' crystal. As Alex struggled to memorize the reproductive cycle of Jovian gas-dwelling organisms, he absent-mindedly reached for his coffee cup. His hand brushed against his half-finished experimental project, a bioluminescent plant he was engineering for his genetics class. The plant toppled, spilling its nutrient solution across his desk. No. Alex scrambled to save his tablets from the spreading liquid. In his panic, he knocked the cup of coffee over too, sending a cascade of liquids straight toward the crystal. Time seemed to slow as Alex watched the mixed solutions seep across the floor toward Quirks. He lunged forward, but it was too late. The liquids touched the base of the crystal formation. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The crystal began to pulse with intense light, its hum rising to a pitch that made Alex's teeth vibrate. The room's lights flickered and died, plunging everything into darkness except for the now brilliantly glowing crystal. Oh God, what did I do? Alex backed away, fumbling for his emergency beacon. But before he could activate it, the crystal began to crack. Fissures of light spread across its surface like lightning. The hum became a high-pitched whine that had Alex covering his ears. Then, with a sound like breaking glass and rushing wind, the crystal exploded. Alex dove behind his bed, expecting to be shredded by crystal shards. Instead, he felt a wave of warm air wash over him, carrying a scent like ozone and starlight, if starlight had a smell. When he dared to look up, his jaw dropped. Where the crystal had been, a figure hovered a few inches off the ground. Humanoid but definitely alien, with iridescent purple skin and patterns of light that seemed to flow beneath its surface. Its eyes opened, revealing swirling galaxies where pupils should be. "Oh," said the being in a voice like chimes in the wind, "I appear to be early." They looked around the room with obvious curiosity before focusing on Alex. "You must be my roommate. I am Quirks. Your experimental compound has accelerated my awakening quite dramatically." They tilted their head. How fascinating. I wasn't scheduled to emerge for another 3 months. Alex stared, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Sorry about that." Quirks smiled, an expression that somehow conveyed both ancient wisdom and childlike wonder. "Don't be. Though I must warn you, an accelerated awakening can have some interesting side effects." As if to emphasize this point, Quirks briefly phased out of visible reality before snapping back into focus. "Oh my, this should be quite an adventure, don't you think?" Alex had a sinking feeling that his life at Orbital Academy Station was about to become much more complicated than he'd ever imagined. Cosmic side effects. The next morning, Alex woke to find his room transformed into what looked like a miniature galaxy. Tiny points of light drifted through the air, swirling in complex patterns around a humming Quirks who floated cross-legged in the center of the room. "Good morning, Alex," Quirks chimed cheerfully. "I've been experimenting with matter-energy conversion. Did you know your sock drawer contains enough potential energy to power a small star?" Alex bolted upright. "My socks? What happened to my socks?" "Oh, don't worry. I only converted a few pairs into pure energy. The phenomenon should be temporary, probably." Quirks waved a hand, sending the lights spinning faster. "Though I must admit, these accelerated awakening effects are rather more intense than I anticipated." Alex stumbled out of bed, trying to avoid the orbiting points of light. "Quirks, we need to talk about boundaries, and maybe get you checked out by the medical bay. This can't be normal, even for a Zentari." "Normal?" Quirks laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a cosmic breeze. "I suppose not. The traditional awakening process is much more gradual. Usually we spend weeks slowly reconnecting with our physical forms. But thanks to your fascinating chemical accident, I've essentially compressed months of awakening into hours." As if to demonstrate this point, Quirks suddenly flickered, their form becoming transparent before solidifying again. Several of the floating lights winked out, while others burst into miniature supernovas. "Fascinating," Quirks exclaimed. "I appear to be experiencing quantum uncertainty on a macro scale. How wonderfully unusual." Alex grabbed his tablet, frantically searching for information about Centauri physiology. Unfortunately, most of it was classified or riddled with academic jargon. "We need help. I'm calling Professor Chen." "Oh, the quantum physicist. Excellent idea." Quirks drifted closer, peering at Alex's tablet. "Though perhaps we should wait until after your morning classes. You're already 17 minutes late for advanced xenobiology." Alex cursed, realizing Quirks was right. He couldn't afford to miss another class. His scholarship depended on perfect attendance. Okay, look, just try not to convert any more of my belongings into energy while I'm gone. And maybe stay in the room? We don't want to panic anyone. Quirks' galaxy eyes sparkled with amusement. I shall endeavor to maintain a low profile, though I must say, the station's antimatter containment systems are singing the most intriguing harmonies. No antimatter. Alex grabbed his bag. Just stay here. Please. As you wish, roommate. Quirks settled back into their floating meditation pose. I shall occupy myself with contemplating the fundamental nature of reality, and perhaps reorganizing your remaining socks by their quantum spin states. Alex barely heard a word of his morning lectures. His mind kept wandering back to his room, imagining increasingly catastrophic scenarios. By lunch, he'd convinced himself he'd returned to find their quarters had become a black hole. You look terrible, Jung commented, using one cybernetic arm to eat, while the other two typed up notes. Roommate troubles. Alex glanced around the cafeteria before leaning in close. Quirks woke up. Jung's extra arms froze mid-type. What? But it's way too early. How did? His eyes widened. Oh no, your experimental plant. The one you were splicing with bioluminescent compounds. And coffee, Alex admitted. There was an accident. Incredible. Jung's cybernetic arms resumed their frantic typing. The caffeine molecules must have interacted with the modified plant DNA to create a catalyst fat. Not helping, Alex hissed. Quirks is experiencing side effects. They turned my socks into energy. Jung looked thoughtful. Pure energy conversion at room temperature. That's actually quite impressive. Think they let me run some tests. Before Alex could respond, the cafeteria's lights flickered. A strange humming filled the air, like the sound of distant singing. Alex's heart sank. Oh no. Quirks drifted through the wall, literally through it, trailing stardust and quantum phenomena. Alex, the most remarkable thing has happened. I've discovered I can perceive and manipulate the underlying quantum fabric of reality. Also, I may have accidentally phased your bed into an alternate dimension. But don't worry, I'm reasonably sure I can get it back. The cafeteria erupted into chaos. Students of various species scrambled away from the glowing alien, while others pulled out devices to record the spectacle. Security drones zoomed toward them, only to short out and fall from the air as they entered Quirks' quantum field. Quirks, Alex groaned. You promised to stay in the room. Technically, part of me is still there. Quantum superposition is fascinating that way. Quirks noticed Jung and brightened, literally, their skin glowing more intensely. Oh, you must be the friend Alex mentions in his sleep. Your cybernetic enhancements have a lovely quantum signature. Jung's original eyes widened while his cybernetic ones zoomed in to analyze Quirks. Thanks, they're custom-made. Say, would you be interested in participating in some experiments? For science. Absolutely not. Alex grabbed Quirks' arm, or tried to. His hand passed right through them. We need to get you to Professor Chen before you accidentally unravel the fabric of spacetime. What an excellent suggestion, Quirks beamed. I've been meaning to discuss some theories about multidimensional physics. Also, I believe your bed has just rematerialized in the hydroponics bay. The station's emergency alarms began to wail. Alex's tablet buzzed with an incoming message. ATENTION old STUDENTS. Please remain calm. We are AXPRINCing TMPORARYQNTUMANOMALIS. Please avoid decade 7 as it is currently existing in several time ESTREAMS simultaneously. Alex buried his face in his hands. His simple dream of studying alien biology had somehow turned into a quantum physics nightmare. And judging by Quirks' delighted expression as they examined their own fluctuating quantum state, things were only going to get more complicated. Look on the bright side, Jung offered, his cybernetic arms recording everything. This will make an amazing research paper. An interdimensional incident. Getting to Professor Chen's office proved more challenging than Alex anticipated. Quirks kept facing through floors. Oops, gravity seems optional today. Accidentally teleporting them to different parts of the station, the cafeteria again. How curious. And turning random objects into exotic matter. Did you know your textbook has the same quantum signature as a neutron star? Finally, after what felt like hours but according to Quirks was simultaneously minutes and centuries, they arrived at Professor Chen's office. The professor, a brilliant but eccentric quantum physicist, was already waiting for them. Fascinating, Professor Chen exclaimed, her augmented eyes whirring as they analyzed Quirks. I haven't seen quantum fluctuations this intense since that incident with the particle accelerator and the smuggled Jovian coffee beans. She paused. We don't talk about that anymore. Professor, Alex began desperately, we need help. Quirks is experiencing some side effects from an accidental early awakening. Side effects. Quirks interrupted, their forms shimming with iridescent light. I prefer to think of them as evolutionary advantages. Watch this. They gestured excitedly, causing Professor Chen's collection of rare quantum crystals to float and merge into a small galaxy. Remarkable. Professor Chen furiously took notes. Complete manipulation of quantum fields at a macro level. Tell me, can you perceive parallel dimensions? Oh yes. Quirks brightened. Would you like to see one? I found a particularly interesting reality where humans evolved from squids instead of apes. The architecture is quite unique. No. Alex jumped between them. No more dimensional portals. The hydroponics department is still trying to deal with the alternate reality plants that came through the last one. Professor Chen adjusted her spectacles, which seemed to be calculating complex equations. Mr. Martinez is right. We need to stabilize your quantum state before you accidentally collapse the station's acetine bubble. She turned to Alex. Tell me exactly what happened during the awakening. Alex explained about the spilled experimental plant compound and coffee. With each detail, Professor Chen's eyebrows rose higher. Let me get this straight, she said finally. You accidentally created a quantum catalyst by combining caffeine, bioluminescent plant DNA, and Centauri crystalline matter. She shook her head. That's either brilliant or incredibly reckless, possibly both. Can you help? Alex asked hopefully. Perhaps. Professor Chen began pulling equipment from her drawers. We'll need to create a quantum dampening field to stabilize their energy state. But first, she pulled out what looked like a cross between a camera and a kaleidoscope. Quirks, would you mind if I took some measurements? For science, of course. What followed was 3 hours of increasingly bizarre experiments. Quirks enthusiastically participated, delighting in each new discovery about their enhanced abilities. Meanwhile, Alex watched in horror as they accidentally created a time loop in the corner of the office. A potted plant now endlessly fell off the shelf, only to reappear at the top. Transformed Professor Chen's desk into a miniature star system, complete with tiny inhabitable planets. Opened at least 2 wormholes to other dimensions, one of which kept making disturbingly squid-like noises. Remarkable, Professor Chen exclaimed for what felt like the 100th time. The caffeine seems to have supercharged Quirks' natural quantum manipulation abilities. Instead of the usual gradual awakening, they'd essentially quantum leaped into a hyper-evolved state. But can you fix it? Alex asked desperately. Fix it? Quirks sounded offended. Why would we want to fix it? I've never felt more awake, more alive, more. They suddenly split into 5 identical copies of themselves, each speaking in harmony. More quantum entangled with the fundamental forces of reality. Professor Chen's eyes sparkled with scientific excitement. The real question is, should we fix it? Think of the research possibilities, the advances in quantum physics, She was interrupted by an urgent announcement over the station's comm system. ATT and Tlion all PER Solen AL. tulium agnonalias, HAVVENDTHCTE, in TAT stations KOE SOSTMs. Reality distortions are AFAECTING multiple decades. Also, the cafeteria is no SARVANGLUNCH from 3 different TIELINES simultaneously. Alex groaned. Professor, please, the station's falling apart. Oh, very well. Professor Chen sighed reluctantly. Quirks, we'll need to create a quantum stabilization chamber. It should help you control these new abilities before you accidentally turn the whole station into a quantum foam. Quantum foam? Quirks' copies merged back into one, looking intrigued. That sounds delightful, like a cosmic bubble bath. No, Alex and Professor Chen shouted simultaneously. First, Professor Chen continued, we'll need some specialized equipment. And by specialized, I mean highly experimental and probably illegal in several star systems. She began writing a list. We'll need a quantum flux capacitor, some dimensional stabilizers, and she paused. Does anyone know where we can find a baby star? Preferably one that hasn't gone supernova yet. Alex felt a headache coming on. Where are we supposed to get all that? Oh, Quirks brightened. I think I saw something like that in the reality where squids evolved. Should I open another portal? Before Alex could protest, a tentacle reached through a suddenly appearing dimensional rift, holding what looked suspiciously like a quantum flux capacitor. Perfect. Professor Chen grabbed the device. Now, let's see about stabilizing your quantum state before you accidentally turn everyone on the station into their quantum superposition selves. Again. That only happened once, Quirks protested, and most of them turned back, eventually. Alex sat down heavily in a chair that may or may not have existed in their current dimension. Somehow, this wasn't how he'd imagined his academic career would go. As Professor Chen and Quirks enthusiastically discussed quantum mechanics in 5-dimensional space, he couldn't help but wonder if it was too late to transfer to a nice, normal Earth university. A small quantum anomaly popped into existence next to him, forming into a cup of perfectly brewed coffee. I thought you might need this, Quirks said kindly. Don't worry. I made sure it only exists in our current timeline. Alex took the cup, smiling despite himself. Maybe having a quantum-powered alien roommate wouldn't be so bad after all. Then Quirks accidentally turned Professor Chen's cat into a small galaxy, and Alex remembered why he was worried in the first place. The quantum containment catastrophe. The plan to stabilize Quirks seemed simple enough on paper. Create a quantum containment chamber, calibrate it to their unique energy signature, and gradually help them control their new abilities. Unfortunately, nothing involving quantum physics and an over-caffeinated alien ever goes according to plan. Hold still, Professor Chen instructed, adjusting the containment field generators around Quirks. This should only take a moment, assuming we don't accidentally create a paradox. Quirks floated serenely in the center of the lab, their form shifting between solid and ethereal. This is quite cozy, though I do believe I'm experiencing existence in 17 dimensions simultaneously right now. Just 17, Professor Chen muttered, typing frantically on her quantum computer. We need to boost the containment field. Alex paced nervously, watching the energy readings climb. Are you sure this is safe? Safe is a relative term in quantum physics, Professor Chen replied cheerfully. Much like time, space, and apparently your roommate's concept of appropriate bedroom decoration. Quirks had recently taken to rearranging their shared room according to quantum aesthetic principles, which meant their furniture now existed in a state of perpetual flux between different artistic styles from across the multiverse. Alex had woken up yesterday to find his bed had become a floating cloud made of crystalline mathematics. Initiating containment sequence, Professor Chen announced. Quirks, you may feel a slight tingling sensation, or possibly transcendent enlightenment, the manual isn't very clear on this point. The containment field hummed to life, surrounding Quirks in a sphere of shimmering energy. For a moment, everything seemed to be working perfectly. Then Quirks sneezed. In quantum physics, a sneeze from a being existing in 17 dimensions simultaneously is not a simple matter. The containment field hiccuped, reality rippled, and suddenly the lab was filled with alternate versions of everyone present. "Oh dear," said Professor Chen, while 3 other Professor Chens nodded in agreement. Each wore slightly different clothing, and one appeared to be part cat. "Fascinating," explained Quirks, now existing as a quantum superposition of themselves across multiple realities. "I can see all possible versions of this moment occurring at once." Alex found himself face to face with 5 other Alexes. One had blue hair and cybernetic implants, another wore a pirate costume, and a third seemed to be made entirely of living mathematics. "This is not good," all the Alexes said in unison. "On the contrary," the cat hybrid Professor Chen purred. "This is an unprecedented opportunity to study quantum superposition at a macro level. Quick, someone take notes." "I volunteer," said Zhang, who had just walked in. Or rather, several Zhangs had just walked in, each with a different number and configuration of cybernetic arms. The situation deteriorated rapidly from there. The quantum containment field, instead of stabilizing Quirks, had somehow merged with their enhanced abilities to create a localized reality storm. Different versions of reality began bleeding into each other, creating increasingly bizarre hybrid scenarios. "Is anyone else concerned about this?" Alex asked, watching as one version of himself began discussing quantum poetry with a Quirks who had transformed into a constellation. "Slightly worried," admitted Parrot Alex, drawing a sword that appeared to be made of solidified probability. "Actually," said Math Alex, his equations glowing with concern, "if my calculations are correct, this convergence of realities could cause a cascade effect throughout the station." As if on cue, the station's AI announced, "ATT entlion all the PDRs on an ale and alternate VRS ones of PRs on an ale. Multiple reality HEs DETKTED. Please remain in your CUR and to diamanians ion if POSFIBL. Cafeteria menanu now includes ITMs from infinite parallel UNIVRCs. Today's special SCHRDINGRs SOP. It both EXISTs and DOES and exist until obless feet. We need to stabilize this," Professor Chen declared. All her alternate versions nodded in agreement, creating a ripple effect in reality. "But how?" Alex asked, trying to ignore the version of himself that had apparently become a quantum physicist and was now debating string theory with a Quirks made of pure light. "Simple. Quirks' many versions chimed in harmony. We just need to find the resonant frequency that will align all these realities back into their proper streams." "And how do we do that?" Cybernetic Alex asked, his artificial eyes whirring as they tried to process the quantum chaos. "With music, of course." Quirks began humming a tune that seemed to exist in frequencies beyond normal space-time. The other Quirks joined in, creating a harmony that made reality itself vibrate. To everyone's surprise, it started working. The various alternate versions began merging back together, reality smoothing out like wrinkles in cosmic fabric. But just as things seemed to be stabilizing, a new problem arose. Zhang's remaining alternate cells said in unison, "Is the containment field supposed to be doing that?" The quantum containment field had begun to pulse with rainbow-colored energy, expanding and contracting like a breathing thing. Quirks' eyes widened across several dimensions simultaneously. "Oh my," they said. "I believe we may have accidentally created a quantum resonance cascade." "In English," Alex demanded. "We've turned the containment field into a reality amplifier," Professor Chen explained, her cat ears twitching nervously. Instead of containing Quirks' quantum effects, it's enhancing them exponentially. The field began to spin, creating a vortex of pure quantum probability. Reality started to warp around it, turning the lab into a kaleidoscope of possible and impossible events. "Don't panic," Quirks said calmly, even as they split into a fractal pattern of infinite cells. "I have an idea." "Your last idea turned the gymnasium into a quantum superposition of every sporting event in human history," Alex reminded them. "True, but this time I'm reasonably certain I can fix everything. I just need to." Quirks concentrated, their form beginning to glow with intense energy. "Ah, yes. Everyone, you might want to close your eyes and possibly exist slightly to the left of normal reality for a moment." Before anyone could ask what that meant, Quirks released a pulse of pure quantum energy. The world seemed to fold in on itself, reality rippling like a stone thrown into a cosmic pond. For a brief moment, Alex experienced what it felt like to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. Then, with a sound like the universe hiccuping, everything snapped back to normal. Almost. "Well," Professor Chen said, adjusting her now normal glasses, "that was interesting." She paused. "Though I think I may still have a tail." Alex looked around the lab. Everything appeared to be back in its proper dimension, though a few objects seemed to have acquired new and interesting properties. Zhang's cybernetic arms were now glowing softly and occasionally displaying quantum equations, while the lab's coffee maker had somehow gained sentience and was philosophically contemplating the perfect brew temperature. Quirks floated in the center of the room, looking slightly sheepish. "Good news. I think I finally figured out how to control my quantum abilities. Bad news. I may have accidentally turned the entire station into a quantum-aware entity. But don't worry, it's friendly." As if to prove their point, the station's lights dimmed sympathetically, and the AI announced, "Reality stabilization achieved. All personnel please return to their original dimensions. Also, I can now perceive the human nature of existence. Would anyone like to discuss the meaning of life in alien dimensions?" Alex sat down heavily in a chair that thankfully remained solid and in one reality. "You know what? I think I need some of that quantum coffee." The sentient coffee maker beeped happily and began brewing what it claimed would be the most philosophically perfect cup of coffee in any dimension. Just another day at Orbital Academy Station. The quantum talent show disaster. Just when Alex thought things couldn't get more complicated, the station's AI, now quantum-aware thanks to Quirks, made an announcement that sent chills down his spine. "Attention all estudiantes and faculty. The annual Orbital Academy Talent Showcase will proceed as scheduled. This year's TAEME INTARDINENS Altion Explorations of Creativity. Note: participants are reminded to keep their performances within the bounds of conventional reality. Mostly." "Oh no," Alex muttered, watching Quirks' face light up with literal starlight. "Oh yes," Quirks exclaimed, spinning in excitement and accidentally creating a small aurora borealis in their room. "This is perfect. I can showcase the beautiful harmony of quantum mechanics through interpretive reality manipulation." "Absolutely not," Alex protested. "Remember what happened last time you tried to express yourself quantum mechanically? The physics department is still trying to unmerge those three parallel universes." "That was ages ago," Quirks waved dismissively. "I have much better control now." "That was yesterday." "Time is relative," Quirks replied cheerfully. "Besides, I've been practicing. Watch this." Before Alex could stop them, Quirks began what they called a simple demonstration. The room's reality rippled like water, transforming into a miniature cosmos. Stars danced in complex patterns, galaxies swirled in harmony, and quantum particles performed what looked suspiciously like a synchronized swimming routine. "See," Quirks said proudly, "perfect control." A small black hole popped into existence near Alex's desk, immediately sucking in his homework. Oops, minor calibration issue. Zhang chose that moment to burst into their room. All 5 of his cybernetic arms, he gained 2 more after the quantum containment incident, typing frantically on different devices. "Have you seen the talent show announcement? This is incredible. Quirks, you have to participate." "No, they really don't," Alex insisted, trying to rescue his homework from the miniature black hole. Actually, Professor Chen's voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once before she physically appeared in the room. She'd retained some quantum abilities after the lab incident. This might be good practice for Quirks. Learning to perform controlled quantum manipulations in front of an audience could help stabilize their abilities. Or it could turn the entire station into a quantum art installation, Alex muttered. That would be fascinating to document. Zhang's extra arms were already sketching storyboards for possible quantum performances. Quirks floated in the center of their private cosmos, their form shifting through various geometric patterns. "I already have ideas. I'm thinking of a 3-act performance, The Quantum Nature of Love, a multidimensional expression in reality manipulation." "That sounds..." Alex searched for a diplomatic word. "Groundbreaking," Zhang supplied. "Potentially catastrophic," Alex finished. But there was no stopping Quirks now. They spent the next week practicing their performance, which led to several interesting incidents. The gravity in their room began operating on an emotional basis, responding to Quirks' artistic moods. Several of Alex's textbooks achieved sentience and formed a study group. The space between their beds became a temporary portal to what Quirks called the dimension of interpretive dance. Their window now showed views from random parallel universes depending on Quirks' choreography. Finally, the day of the talent show arrived. The station's main auditorium was packed with students, faculty, and various beings from across the known, and thanks to Quirks, several unknown universes. "Remember," Alex pleaded backstage, Professor Chen said to keep it simple. "No reality warping beyond the stage area, no creating sentient quantum entities, and absolutely no temporal paradoxes." Of course, Quirks agreed, but their skin was literally glowing with excitement. Everything will be fine. The first few acts were relatively normal by station standards: a Martian jazz quartet, a Venusian fire dancer, and a group of engineering students who had taught nanobots to perform Shakespeare. Then it was Quirks' turn. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminate dimensionality," the station's AI announced, "please welcome Quirks with their performance, The Quantum Nature of Love, a multidimensional expression in reality manipulation." Quirks floated onto the stage, their form already beginning to shimmer with quantum energy. The lights dimmed, and for a moment, everything was silent. Then Quirks began to dance. It started beautifully, reality rippled like silk, stars bloomed in the air, and the very fabric of space-time seemed to sing. The audience gasped as Quirks wove quantum possibilities into visible patterns, creating a display that made the aurora borealis look like a flashlight show. But then, as Quirks reached what they called the emotional crescendo, things started getting out of hand. "Is the stage supposed to be existing in 5 dimensions simultaneously?" someone whispered. "I can see through time," another audience member exclaimed. "Does anyone else suddenly understand the meaning of life, or is that just me?" asked a third. Alex watched in horror as Quirks' performance began affecting the entire auditorium. Reality began to fold and unfold like cosmic origami. The laws of physics started taking creative liberties with themselves. "Quirks," he called out, "remember what we talked about. Keep it contained." But Quirks was fully immersed in their artistic expression, and now they announced their voice echoing across multiple dimensions. For the funnel, love transcending reality. A quantum ballet in infinite acts. The stage erupted into a kaleidoscope of quantum possibilities. Everyone in the audience briefly experienced what it felt like to be a quantum particle in a state of superposition. The station's A began composing quantum poetry in binary. Professor Chen, who had been watching with scientific interest, finally stood up. Fascinating, but perhaps we shawled. She never finished her sentence because at that moment, Quirks' grand finale reached its peak. The entire auditorium transformed into a living representation of quantum mechanics, with the audience members becoming part of the performance, literally. "I can taste colors," Jung exclaimed, his cybernetic arms now playing quantum jazz. "My consciousness has achieved quantum entanglement with my younger self," someone else shouted. The talent SHOLU HAS HHAEV Super the station's AI announced proudly. Reality RATINGS are through the roof. Also, the roof is now a MOBIUS strip. Alex watched as chaos unfolded in 18 different dimensions simultaneously. His roommate had turned the talent show into an interdimensional quantum art festival, and judging by the expressions of wonder and occasional existential crisis on the audience's faces, they were actually enjoying it. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and a microsecond, Quirks brought their performance to a close. Reality settled back into its more or less normal configuration, though several audience members were still glowing slightly, and the stage had developed a habit of occasionally shifting into the fourth dimension. The applause was thunderous, spanning multiple realities. "That was incredible," Jung exclaimed, his extra arms still conducting quantum symphonies. "Groundbreaking," Professor Chen added. Her quantum physics textbooks would need serious revision. "Never again," Alex mumbled, though he couldn't help but smile at Quirks' obvious joy. Quirks floated down from the stage, their forms still shimmering with residual quantum energy. "Did you like it?" "I tried to keep it subtle." "Subtle?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "You turned the entire audience into living quantum computers for 5 minutes. 7 minutes in this timeline," Quirks corrected. Though in the parallel dimension where squids evolved into the dominant species, it was more like 3 days. They have a different perspective on performance art. The station's AA chimed in, "Talent SAOU and TLUDET. Reality nanoemalizing. Mostly. Pseudo-indurations to KOX of winning first place and exciting totally ADVN sing QUNTUM foises by CVE Royal Centuries. Cafeteria will be serving INTRDINENS has IONAL refresh until FURTER notice." Alex sighed, watching as students excitedly discussed their brief experience as quantum beings. "Well, at least nothing exploded this time." "Actually," Quirks said thoughtfully, "I believe I may have accidentally caused several stars to go supernova in alternate dimensions. But don't worry, they were uninhabited systems. Probably. Just another successful performance at Orbital Academy Station." Quantum Finals Week. Finals week at Orbital Academy Station was stressful enough without having a quantum-powered alien roommate. But as Alex sat surrounded by study materials, trying to memorize xenobiological classification systems, Quirks had what they considered a helpful idea. "I could simply adjust the quantum probability of you knowing all the answers," Quirks offered, floating upside down and leaving trails of cosmic energy in the air. "Just a tiny reality adjustment. No quantum cheating," Alex said firmly, not looking up from his notes. Professor Chen specifically said no reality manipulation during exams. "Technically," she said, "no obvious reality manipulation," Quirks corrected, transforming Alex's coffee into a swirling nebula of caffeinated stardust. "I've become quite subtle with my abilities lately. You turned the library into a living encyclopedia yesterday." The books wanted to teach. Who am I to deny their quantum awakening? Before Alex could argue further, Zhang burst into their room, all 7 of his cybernetic arms. He'd sprouted 2 more after the talent show incident, clutching different study materials. Emergency study session, he announced. The advanced xenophysiology final is tomorrow, and my quantum-enhanced brain is still having trouble processing non-linear alien life cycles. Quirks perked up. Did someone say non-linear? I'm something of an expert in temporal dynamics now. Watch. Before anyone could stop them, Quirks waved their hand. Suddenly, the room transformed into a living diagram of alien evolution, with various species floating around them in chronological order, and sometimes out of order, when the species in question evolved backwards through time. See, Quirks said proudly, visual learning aids. Alex had to admit, watching the actual process of evolution playing out in real time, and occasionally in reverse, was oddly helpful. Until... Quirks? Zhang pointed with 3 arms. Why is that Jovian gas dweller trying to mate with my quantum physics textbook? Oops. Quirks quickly adjusted reality. Minor cross-dimensional confusion, though I must say their offspring would have been fascinating from a scientific perspective. The study session quickly devolved into what Quirks called a practical demonstration of multidimensional biology. Their room became a swirling vortex of living lessons, with actual alien specimens popping in and out of existence to demonstrate their life cycles. This is actually kind of amazing, Alex admitted, watching a Martian soundworm go through 3 million years of evolution in 30 seconds. See, Quirks beamed. Learning is much more effective when you can experience it across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Then the station's AI made an announcement that changed everything. Attenton students, DUE2, Roy CENTQUNTUM ANOMALIS, all final exams will know INTLUD a practical component testing, your ability to handle unexpected INTORDIMESIONAL situations. Good Lucy K. You will need it. What? Alex yelped. Fascinating. Quirks clapped their hands, causing several quantum butterflies to appear. They're adapting the curriculum to account for the station's new quantum-aware state. How progressive. The next day, Alex arrived at his first exam to find the testing chamber had been transformed into what Professor Chen called a quantum problem-solving environment. Students would have to demonstrate their knowledge while dealing with random reality fluctuations. Remember, Professor Chen announced, now existing simultaneously at the front and back of the room, points will be deducted for causing temporal paradoxes or accidentally creating sentient quantum entities. Begin. The exam was chaos. Alex watched as his classmates tried to complete their tests while gravity reversed itself every 7 minutes. Their pencils occasionally gained consciousness and tried to correct their answers. Random objects quantum-tunneled between desks. The questions on their papers existed in a state of superposition, being simultaneously different questions until observed. Thanks to months of living with Quirks, Alex found himself surprisingly well prepared for these conditions. When his desk turned into a small quantum computer, he simply adjusted his writing angle. When his test paper briefly became a window into an alternate dimension, he waited patiently for reality to reassert itself. Time's up, Professor Chen announced, her voice echoing across several quantum frequencies. Please submit your papers, assuming they still exist in this dimension. After the exam, Alex found Quirks waiting outside, their forms swirling with excited energy. How did it go? They asked, accidentally causing several nearby plants to evolve sentience. Actually, not bad, Alex replied, realizing he'd somehow become accustomed to quantum chaos. Though I think I may have accidentally proven string theory while solving a biology problem. That happens, Quirks said sagely. The boundaries between scientific disciplines become rather fluid when you're dealing with quantum reality. Speaking of which, they gestured at the hallway, which transformed into a swirling vortex of mathematical equations and biological diagrams. I've prepared a special study environment for your next final. The quantum physics of biochemistry, expressed through interpretive reality manipulation. Quirks. Alex started to protest, but then he noticed something interesting. The quantum formulas floating around them actually made sense. The biological processes were clearer when viewed through the lens of quantum mechanics. Even the sentient plants were offering surprisingly insightful comments about photosynthesis. "You know what?" he said finally. "Why not? But please try to keep the number of accidental dimensional portals to a minimum this time." Of course, Quirks agreed cheerfully. Though I should mention that the cafeteria may currently be experiencing a slight temporal loop. Taco Tuesday has been repeating for the past 17 quantum cycles. The station's AA chimed in, "ATN students, Tempiloral ANONALY and cafeteria, Coentine U's. On the bright side, Tatego supilius are finite. Also, some Tateos may have enlightenment. Please be polite if they attempt to discuss philosophy." Zhang appeared around a corner that possibly didn't exist a moment ago. "Did someone say quantum tacos? This is perfect. I need brain food for the engineering final, and what better than quantum-enlightened Mexican cuisine?" As they headed to the cafeteria, dodging random reality fluctuations and discussing quantum biology, Alex realized something. His life had become absolutely bizarre since Quirks' awakening, but somehow he wouldn't have it any other way. "You know," he said to Quirks, watching a quantum-enlightened Turco explain the meaning of life to a group of fascinated students, "when I applied to Orbital Academy Station, I thought I was just going to study alien biology. I never expected to become friends with a quantum-powered alien who turned my entire academic experience into an interdimensional adventure." Quirks glowed with happiness, causing several nearby objects to spontaneously achieve quantum harmony. "And I never expected my accidental early awakening would lead to such wonderful chaos. Though I suppose in some parallel universe, we knew this would happen all along." Speaking of parallel universes, Zhang interrupted, his cybernetic arms juggling quantum tacos. "Has anyone seen Professor Chen? She was supposed to be in her office, but when I checked, it was occupied by a version of her from next Tuesday who insisted she was actually from last week." "Oh dear," Quirks said. "It seems the temporal loops are spreading. Should we help fix it?" Alex looked at his study schedule, then at chaos around them, and made a decision. After finals. Right now, I need to figure out how to write an essay on xenobiology while existing in 3 dimensions simultaneously. "That's the spirit," Quirks exclaimed, causing the hallway to transform into a quantum study hall where the laws of physics were more like polite suggestions. Just another finals week at Orbital Academy Station, where education had become a truly multidimensional experience. The great quantum graduation. The end of the academic year arrived in what felt like both an instant and an eternity, time being rather flexible around Quirks these days. The station was abuzz with graduation preparations, though buzz might be an understatement when the decorations existed in quantum superposition and the graduation gowns occasionally achieved sentience. "I can't believe we actually made it," Alex said, adjusting his graduation robe, which kept trying to turn itself into a quantum probability field. "There were moments I thought we accidentally turned the whole station into a quantum singularity." "We came close only 3 times, Quirks pointed out cheerfully, floating nearby as a constellation of graduating stars. 4 if you count that incident with the quantum-enhanced coffee machine that gained ambitions of becoming a universal consciousness." "Don't remind me," Alex groaned. "It's still sending everyone philosophical messages through their morning beverages." As if on cue, Zhang rushed up to them, all 9 of his cybernetic arms. The final two had sprouted during a particularly intense quantum physics study session, clutching various graduation items. My coffee just told me that existence is merely a probability wave waiting to be observed, and then transformed into a Klein bottle. That's actually rather insightful, Quirks mused. Speaking of probability waves. The air around them shimmered as Quirks began what they called a minor graduation enhancement. The station's main hall, where the ceremony would take place, transformed into a magnificent quantum amphitheater. The ceiling became a living map of the cosmos, with actual stars and galaxies swirling overhead. The seats rearranged themselves into impossible geometric patterns that somehow remained perfectly comfortable. Quirks, Alex started. Remember what Professor Chen said about keeping things subtle. Quirks finished. Don't worry, I've been practicing. Watch. They gestured elegantly, and the quantum decorations settled into a slightly more stable state, though the stars overhead still occasionally formed themselves into congratulatory messages in various alien languages. Attention all GIDUATING entities, the station's AI announced, its voice resonating across multiple quantum frequencies. The CEREMONY will begin in 30 minutes, or possibly 3 hours ago, depending on your CURENTEMPORL orientation. Please ensure your existence is properly calibrated to this dying in Sion. The graduation ceremony itself was unique. Professor Chen, who had been chosen as the keynote speaker, delivered her address simultaneously in 7 different dimensions to ensure no one missed a word. The diplomas existed in a state of quantum superposition until received, containing all possible degrees until observed. Quirks had helpfully suggested this feature to add an element of surprise to the proceedings. And now, Professor Chen announced, her form slightly blurring as she maintained multidimensional presence, I am proud to present this year's graduating class, the first to complete their studies in our new quantum-enhanced curriculum. As names were called, each graduate floated up to receive their diploma in what Quirks had termed a gravitationally appropriate manner. Some walked on light beams, others quantum-tunneled to the stage, and one particularly enthusiastic engineering student had programmed their graduation road to transform into a small personal spacecraft. Alex Martinez, Professor Chen called, majoring in xenobiology with a minor in quantum crisis management, a new field of study largely inspired by his unique dormitory situation. As Alex approached the stage, he felt Quirks' excitement ripple through reality. The air around him sparkled with quantum energy, and for a moment he could see every possible version of himself graduating across infinite dimensions. Thank you, he said, accepting his diploma which, when unfolded, contained what appeared to be the secrets of the universe written in quantum mathematics. Though I think the crisis management minor was more survival than study. Sometimes the best education comes from unexpected sources, Professor Chen replied, briefly existing as both her current self and her future self who had already written several groundbreaking papers about the past year's events. Finally, it was Quirks' turn. Quirks, Professor Chen announced, majoring in quantum physics with specializations in reality manipulation, interdimensional communications, and accidental universe enhancement. Quirks floated to the stage as a symphony of stars, their forms shifting through various geometric patterns of pure joy. As they accepted their diploma, their excitement caused a brief reality fluctuation that turned the entire ceremony into a cosmic dance of quantum particles. Oops, they said, quickly stabilizing reality before anyone could accidentally achieve universal consciousness. Got a bit carried away there. The ceremony concluded with what the program called a quantum celebration experience, courtesy of Quirks. The hall transformed into a multi-dimensional party space where graduates could celebrate across several realities simultaneously. The refreshments existed in quantum superposition, being simultaneously every possible graduation snack until observed. The music played in frequencies that made the fabric of space-time dance. You know, Alex said to Quirks as they watched their classmates celebrate across multiple dimensions, when I first found out I was getting an alien roommate, I never imagined it would lead to all this. And when I was preparing for my traditional awakening, I never imagined a clumsy human with an experimental plant and some spilled coffee would change everything, Quirks replied, their forms shimmering with affection. Though I suppose in some parallel universe, we both knew exactly what would happen. Speaking of parallel universes, Zhang interrupted, his cybernetic arms now playing quantum jazz with some sentient light beams. Has anyone seen the Squid Evolution dimension lately? They're throwing an amazing parallel graduation party. The station's AA chimed in, A10 Tion GRADUATES. INTARDIMESIONAL portals to various graduation celebrations are now WOPENTA recipient area. Please ensure you tune to your original dimension before leaving. Also, the A2UANTUM enhanced steed coffee machine would like you to give a barif lecture on the métier faux IKL MMPICATIONs of graduation. As their classmates excitedly explored the interdimensional graduation festivities, Alex turned to Quirks. So, what's next for a quantum-powered alien and their human roommate? Quirks' forms sparkled with possibilities. Well, I've been offered a position in the station's new Department of Quantum Biology. Apparently, our little accidents have created an entirely new field of study. And you? Professor Chen wants me to help establish proper protocols for handling quantum-enhanced alien awakenings, Alex replied with a laugh. Apparently, we're not the only ones who might benefit from some guidelines. Excellent, Quirks exclaimed, causing several nearby quantum particles to break into a celebratory dance. Though I should mention, I may have accidentally quantum entangled our futures during the ceremony. We might be stuck dealing with interdimensional adventures together for quite a while. Alex looked around at the celebration, at the dancing lights, the quantum-enlightened graduates, the sentient refreshments discussing philosophy, and the fabric of reality itself celebrating their achievements, and smiled. You know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. At 10 ton party Joey's, the station's AA announced one final time. Reality is now the operating at maximum festivity levels. Quantum happiness, DTTCTDA across multiple dimensions. Also, the coffee machine has HFY Sci-Fi and ISOFIERIENIHN in both a regular and decaf. Just another graduation day at Orbital Academy Station, where the future was not just bright, but quantum-enhanced, multidimensional, and full of endless possibilities. The end, or perhaps just the beginning, depending on which quantum reality you're observing from.